In today's episode, we're going to learn how to design our own self-care routines to keep chronic stress at bay.
Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanyamfk. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello everyone, and welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk, and on the My Design Life Show podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as Tanya MFK, and thank you for being here today. My guest was a hard-working single mom of three, pushing through graduate school when she realized something was wrong. Diagnosed at 46 with rheumatoid arthritis and with 3 additional autoimmune diseases, she had to stop working and quit school because she was unable to function at normal levels. Having watched her seemingly healthy father of 54 pass away unexpectedly, and with 3 children not yet ready to be without their mom, she decided it was time to figure out options beyond medications that would only slow the process. Through research, experimentation, diet, and meditation, she began to take charge of her health, reclaiming the energized and vibrant woman that she was. 6 years later, she is an international speaker and national board certified functional medicine health coach, specializing in autoimmunity and guiding her clients to a path of greater wellness. Here today to teach us about the power of self-care and stress management, please welcome Coach Julie Michelson. Welcome, Julie.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, so excited to have you. And while I briefly mentioned in our intro that you changed your health and made a ton of impact, I was wondering if you could maybe take us a little more down that journey and how you got here.
Absolutely. It actually was quite a longer journey than that. I was diagnosed in my early 30s with rheumatoid arthritis and declined until I was 46.
Oh my goodness.
So I was quite ill by the time I kind of reached for the miracle, if you will. When I was first diagnosed, my kids were really pretty young. They were 3, 5, and 7. And so, yeah, they needed me to be like physically top of my game, and realizing that I wasn't able to be the kind of mom I wanted to be was actually what drove me to even go get diagnosed, that something was really wrong.
So you were suffering all that time from 30s until 46, not knowing exactly what was going on?
So no, I was actually one of the lucky ones who got diagnosed within a year of seeking answers.
Okay.
But unfortunately, when I was diagnosed, I was told that there was no hope to heal, and that they would slow the disease as much as they could for the rest of my life. And so I was given lots of medications and lots of different treatment options, and spent literally 10 years not only declining, but adding prescriptions, adding diagnoses, just getting worse.
Right.
And
your
finally,
main thing was rheumatoid arthritis, right? That was the
yes,
main.
my initial diagnosis and the main thing. So I was living with a lot of pain and a lot of fatigue.
Yes.
And the fatigue as a single mom was the part that was the hardest.
Yeah, it's already part of the job without having any other.
Right. And waking up exhausted in the morning when you have children is not how you want to start your day.
Yeah.
And so I began to search. It was actually my daughter, who's my youngest, who came to me and said, Mom, please don't die and leave us.
Oh.
And I said to her, I promise I'll do everything I can. I didn't know what that was. I didn't really believe there was anything I could do.
Oh, you had all these years of people telling you otherwise.
Yeah. And I'd hear a story and I'd go back to my doctor, who I thought was so smart. And I would say, well, like, what about gluten? Or what about, and she'd say, nah. And she was also not only a physician, but a researcher, and her field was rheumatoid arthritis. So sadly, I thought she knew more than I did at the time. But thank goodness at 46, I began the search, and it was really without expectation and not a lot of hope. that I thought, well, I need to learn. I need to figure out something. I need to try some of these things that the doctors say are crazy or the doctors say don't work, and see for myself to at least show my children, that I tried, right? I don't want to leave them without trying to stay. And thank goodness that was the beginning of my healing journey. It was amazing.
Yeah, so there's a few things there I think to unpack as well. One thing, I don't think I've actually ever mentioned on the show before. Most people who follow me, they know I have a background prior to all the other work that I've done in clinical research. So I actually worked in immunology, but prior to that, I actually started working for a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. That's how I started in the medical field. And so through that, kind of seeing the debilitation that people would go through, especially the surprisingly young people, it's not usually something that hits people very young. So when it does, it just it seems even more aggressive. And and so what we would see and what we start to learn with a lot of the patients as they're coming in is the main thing that was offered was really pain management. And that's the thing that I think Julie's talking about here, guys, is that, she was being diligent. She was going through all the steps, but really even at the top specialists, the best they could do is say, how can we manage your pain? And so sometimes that turns into weekly or sometimes bi-weekly, or not bi-weekly, twice a week coming in to get cortisone shots, which can be painful in themselves, and that's just pain management. And then going in from there to get more medications, and then those medications have side effects, and so then you get medications to deal with those side effects, and it just goes on, and it becomes like a lifestyle almost just to manage the pain, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was exactly, my syndrome. It was, not only pain management, but they were trying to, modify the disease. So then I'm taking all of these other, chemo drugs and biologics and things that are doing, like you said, all kinds of other damage that I now need new prescriptions
to combat that.
And it literally ended up on 10 prescriptions and felt horrible. It wasn't like I was on 10 prescriptions and I felt great.
Right. It wasn't like you're like, oh, this is working fantastic.
Slowing down. Exactly.
Yeah. So the improvement wasn't happening. And then, and then as you went to discuss maybe alternatives, you tend to get met with either resistance or just lack of knowledge. And I think it's hard. And the reason I wanted to dive into this a little bit is I think it's still hard for people to understand that there are lots of areas our doctors don't know about. And it's not that they're trying to be evil or they're trying to be against something. There are a lot of things, that they aren't trained in or that they have learned about. And nutrition, as we'll start to learn, I'm sure, with Julie's story, is a huge missing component in the basics of the medical school. And any honest doctor will tell you that they had very little 2
hours
training.
I think
Yeah. When my husband got sick and my first husband died of cancer, we went through meeting with a nutritionist to meet with him. And when I started asking a lot of nutritional questions, they said, these are top cancer doctors. And they said, you'll have to talk to our dietitian. You'll have to talk to our RD. We don't really know. And then from there, even there were areas the RD wasn't sure. So it's a very tough path. So not only, I'm assuming, Julie, were you dealing with the physical problems, but there's got to be some just mental fatigue, not even that comes with the disease, but mental fatigue of just trying to get answers.
Absolutely. There's a state of hopelessness, as your health declines and you start to lose pieces of your life. As I mentioned, not being the kind of mom, I still, my kids, we just talked about it. I was very hands-on, but didn't have the energy to do all the things I wanted to do. My youngest watched me super involved when she was really little, PTA president, and I was on every board and I did all the volunteering, and that slowly, that was the first thing that went, and my friendships went, and my relationship, you lose pieces of life. And so it does take an emotional and mental toll for sure. And again, given no hope to get better, definitely does. And as you said, My doctors were amazing. They're really good people. I adore them to this day. I'm glad I don't need to see them anymore. Um, but it is a training issue, right? It is, you know, I was seeing Western trained medical docs, and they are focused on their body system, if you will. And they're not trained to look for underlying cause, and they're not trained to use nutrition and lifestyle as an adjunct, you know. And I'm not an either or. I don't say Western medicine's evil. Like, thank goodness it's there. You know, I had appendicitis. I'm grateful I was able to get surgery, right?
Yeah, if my arm's cut off, I want a surgeon. I love essential oils, but I want a surgeon, you know. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, don't eat some veggies if you're bleeding out.
Right.
It is just, it's a training difference. It's a perspective difference. And that's what got me so passionate about functional medicine when I finally found functional medicine, because for my passion point, which is chronic illness, that is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So as you got to that low point, that hard point, that give up, which is also the beginning, right? Like, it's so amazing sometimes that our rock bottoms are the gateways to an amazing change. So how did you navigate that? How did you know? It looks like you had been doing some research already and had some curiosity, but with the kind of fire ignited through your kids and all those things, how did you start to get to that point? How did that process happen?
Great question. The beginning of the journey was a happy accident. My oldest son was diagnosed with celiac. And at the time he was in middle school, and I just went gluten-free to support him. Right. Cause like that's hard. So, you know, we had a gluten box for the other two kids, and the rest of the house was gluten-free. And I noticed that my pain had gotten a little bit better because I went gluten-free to support him. I now know I too have been celiac my whole life. Explains a lot of things that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
And that was like the initial, you know, it wasn't like a big life-changing improvement, but it was noticeable. And so it was kind of undeniable that maybe what you eat
maybe
that's how you feel. Maybe. And so that drove me to dig in, and I did experimenting on my own. I did a lot of stuff wrong. You know, I would read, I really quickly kind of went from gluten-free to paleo. But I say I wasn't doing paleo well.
Okay.
Doing like low-fat, high-sugar paleo.
Oh, okay, right. That's a version. There's some version out there. Right?
Well, you know, there's lots of like paleo dessert recipes and paleo, you know, and I just, and because my dad had passed at 54, we in my family had avoided fat for so long that, you know, I get these beautiful paleo recipes that are loaded with coconut oil or ghee, and I'm like, that's gross. I don't need that. You know, like, I'm not putting that part in.
That can't be good for me.
Yeah, that must be terrible. So unfortunately, you know, again, that was like, things got a little bit better. And then thank goodness I found Dave Asprey and the Bulletproof Diet.
Yes.
And I read his book, and it just like clicked, you know, everything started to make sense. The science behind, you know, the way the diet's set up. And for the first time in my life, I had a high healthy fat diet. And that was the missing piece of that, what I call almost like the first tier, you know, of the pyramid, right? Because I'm still improving.
Right.
Like, I feel amazing. I can't believe I feel as well as I do. And then 6 months later, I feel even better. And I'm like, wow, who knew? So it's exciting. But as far as the diet piece for me, I do have a lot of foods I'm sensitive to that I avoid, but adding a really significant amount of that healthy fat was the game changer.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I'm, you know, I'm a child of the 80s, and I know it started long before I was born, was the demifying of fat.
Yes.
And I did some nutritional work, was a passion of mine for a while when I came from the medical field and after I got out of immunology. And I worked with some older clients who were in their 60s at the time. And it was a really, really hard thing to start to work with them because they had been just, butter is terrible. You got to have margarine. Everything's got to be low fat, and working with them, like, no, don't buy the low fat yogurt. Don't buy, and it's so ingrained. And then when we start to learn, and so for those of you that don't know, David Asprey is the one who created Bulletproof, he's behind the Bulletproof coffee. And I've seen one of his podcasts on Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu, which was, I think, named something aptly like How to Live Forever, which is Tom. If you guys don't watch Tom, that's his whole goal in life, is to live forever. What is the name of his actual book, though? I don't recall. Just so we share with the listeners.
Well, the original one, the first one that I read, it's literally called The Bulletproof Diet.
Okay, it is Bulletproof Diet. Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, he's written a couple more since then, but that was the one for me that became my Bible. And not only, was my pain better and my fatigue better, but my brain fog started to get better. And so my brain was working. And then Bulletproof at the time created what was then the Bulletproof Training Institute. They created a coaching program. And I was like, I am in.
Yes.
I want to do this. I'm in. And it was actually through his coaching program that I really found out all about functional medicine. And, it just one step has led to another. And it's just been, the more I learn, the more I want to share with people, because I thought I was so educated and I had no idea there was this whole other world of wellness out there. That wasn't woo-woo or imaginary.
You weren't only eating spirulina or
exactly.
Yeah, so you're living on more than algae and being able to eat things that taste good. And so this shift, and I think what it starts to create is really a whole different awareness of your body and the connection with food. Like you were saying, you probably were eating what you thought was healthy beforehand, or what had been told was healthy, but weren't really paying attention to how it made you feel, because what does food have to do with my joints or my, brain fog or anything? So when you start to shift over to here, it creates a whole different awareness of that connection, where you started noticing, hey, I feel better. There could be something there. And then lo and behold, we are literally what we eat. We experience what we eat. It is absolutely 100% direct connection. So here you are now feeling better. You've gotten your certification. You moved into functional medicine. We've had a functional medicine doctor on here, but we didn't dive into too much maybe about that approach. We just remind our audience what functional medicine is.
Absolutely. So functional medicine is, I call it a root cause medicine. They look at the body systems as a whole, which is the difference, between Western medicine. You're sent to the specialist, right? It's either your heart or it's your liver. It's, this system, that system. And it's a holistic whole body approach. And they're looking for the underlying cause. So it's not a treat the symptoms medicine. Right. It's the belief is the body is designed to be able to heal itself. And so when it can't heal itself, something's blocking, right? Something's off. So it is a digging down and really figuring out what is driving the illness so that you can stop the trigger and heal the illness. And it works.
Our body's all connected, guys.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Seems so basic and obvious, and yet this is where we are in medicine. That your headache can be connected to your back pain, can be connected to what you're eating, can be connected
gut.
to your gut. Absolutely, all of those things. And so, coming in as a functional medicine coach, you now focus on other people with chronic illnesses, correct?
I do. Yes, it is my passion to help people experience what I experience every day, which is waking up, living a full life, feeling better than I really literally ever thought I could. And so that's my goal. For me, the side effect of wellness was I got off of those 10 medications because I didn't need them anymore. A couple of years ago, my rheumatologist was like, I'm always here for you, but you don't ever need to come back
You
in.
don't need me.
I'm dismissing you. And
That's
I was
the
like,
best breakup ever.
who gets dismissed from the rheumatologist when they have a, supposedly debilitating diagnosis? So
That's
I,
so
I work
powerful.
with it, and I definitely autoimmunity is under the umbrella of what I do, but it's really all chronic illness is driven by inflammation. So it
Mm.
doesn't matter if it's, rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cardiac issues. It's all driven by inflammation. And so that's my area of expertise and passion, because there are so many things we can do. Yes, diet included. And diet is always, I call it the low hanging fruit. It's the easiest place to start. One of my favorite quotes is, everything you eat is either, feeding wellness or driving disease, right? It's one or the other. Literally everything we put
Yes.
in our mouth is either supporting us or taking us out. And so it is always where we start. But one of the other areas that I have had clients come in that have been working for years and they have their diet dialed in. I have never had a client come in that has their stress management dialed in. And so there are so many other areas that drive inflammation. Stress drives inflammation, chronic stress drives inflammation, sleep, inappropriate movement. So whether you're over exercising or under exercising, toxins is a huge one as well. So there are a bunch of what I call lifestyle areas that, whether you're, doesn't matter what kind of doc is treating you, we just start working on these areas and all of a sudden things just start to improve. And because it's lifestyle change, it's not a diet or a temporary fix. It's really creating, what works for you, what brings wellness to your life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I want to talk about the inflammation a little bit, because inflammation, I feel for a lot of us, it still resonates with. I can't help but picture like the old Pepto-Bismol commercials, everyone, where it's like, is it inflamed, or the other pain medication where they show the big red glowing light and it's like, oh, this, or it has to do with a sprained ankle. But in the last couple of years, I've been hearing it really discussed so much more as something that's going on in our body, that stress causes inflammation, that these certain foods can reduce inflammation. So what are we talking about when we're saying inflammation?
Sure. Yeah, I love one of my favorite subjects. So I already know, like, I'm a big nerd, big geek. I love this stuff. So our inflammation is a good thing. I want to say first, like, it is our body's defense system. So when you are, cut, or you break a bone, or you get exposed to a bacteria or a virus, inflammation is the immune response that helps fight off whatever the insult is, so we can heal and move on with our life. And that's great.
Right. So we like
And we
that in
so
a
we need
sense.
it.
We
Right.
need that
Yeah.
happening.
So we don't want the body to never be inflamed. Like, we definitely need the body to have that response. And I'll use stress as like my favorite example to use. If you think of, I already said, I love paleo. So let's go to Paleolithic times. What kinds of stressors, did we experience? Really big ones, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
You need to run, right? So big stressor, big stress response. What the body does when it's stressed is it puts all of your reserve energy to allow you to run away from the tiger. So your digestive tract slows down and doesn't get as much of your physical. You don't need to digest lunch if you're not going to live to get away from the tiger, right? Our our reproductive systems slow down. All of our hormones go off balance because the goal is run.
It's all diverted to one
Yeah.
focus. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so
why
back
people can
then,
sometimes have those superhuman responses where you're like, grandma was able to lift an entire truck off of
right,
somebody because
because she wasn't digesting.
she wasn't doing anything. The body was like, we're only focused on this.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, back then, either you didn't make it or you made it and the stress levels settled back down, things balanced back out. And that's what our body, just like with the inflammation, is designed for these acute stressors.
Mm-hmm.
But our societies and our world we live in today, especially today,
Yeah, right.
chronic stress is, I don't know anybody that doesn't, whether they're aware of it or not, experience chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting those hormones, they're daily, they're constantly out of balance. So you're chronically losing, that optimal gut function, perhaps, all of the different systems. And this is where, anxiety builds up and our cortisol is too high. And again,
we're never getting that downtime.
We've lost the reset. Our baseline, is no longer down here. It's up here, and then we're bouncing with the stress up here. But we, unless we are actively, consciously practicing stress management, we have lost baseline. We are way above baseline. Right. And that's where what I call the chronic stress, chronic inflammation. And so it's the same thing, right? You want that acute inflammatory response, but you don't want this building of something's always driving inflammation in your body.
Right. It's just always there. There's no reset button. And then we go, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm sick, or have this unexplained issue going on.
Yeah. Or one of my favorite ways to even explain it to people, we all are so masterful at compensating for our symptoms or ignoring our symptoms that I would say most of what people consider, I'm getting older, I'm just aging, right? I'm tired when I wake up in the morning. Oh, my knees hurt. I don't play basketball anymore because, I'm older. All of those the aches and the pains and the energy decline that we think of as aging, that's inflammation.
Yeah. Yeah, because, we have more access to, in a lot of ways, and I've heard this said, is that, we live in a more comfortable time than has ever happened before. We're not foraging for our food. We have refrigerators that do these things. There's a lot of comforts, and yet somehow we're more stressed than we've ever been. And so that reset button's not happening. We're not enjoying all of these things. And so our like you said, our baseline's being replaced with kind of a level of chaos. And then we just start to accept that that's what's normal.
Yes.
And that doesn't sound good at all.
No, and then add to it that most of us live, in a go society. And so this idea of self-care and stress management means you are creating time, you're carving some time out, now we know, to handle this really big potential problem, right?
Yeah.
But we have to break through, just like I had to break through that, yes, healthy fat is good for me. We have to break through this idea that taking time, creating time for ourselves is selfish. Yeah. And it's not. It is the most giving, loving thing you could do for those around you, is make some time for yourself and become, the better human, right? The happier, calmer, I promise, when I first started a meditation routine, and it really pretty quickly created some really big change with me. And I was meditating twice a day at the time for 20 minutes. And if I missed my afternoon meditation, like 2 days in a row, my daughter, my guiding light, would say, Mom, do you need to meditate? I'll drive. And I'm a pretty calm person anyway, but she could notice the difference. And so, that's a shift I think we all need to make, is it's our response. It's not a luxury. It's our
Yeah.
responsibility to take that care of
That's the
ourselves.
huge misconception, is that it's a luxury. It's that when I find time, when
Right.
I'm wealthy enough that I can take time off,
Yes.
where I can meditate and do yoga or whatever that thing is,
Yes.
get massages. That's what it is. It's a luxury. It's an extra, as opposed to a health necessity.
Yes.
We'll make time to go see the doctor when we're ill, but we can take
Right.
that same amount of time to not get ill and take care of
Exactly.
ourselves before that.
Prevent. Absolutely.
So how do
Absolutely.
we shift to that? How do we shift from if we're going, okay, Julie, all right, Coach Julie, I'm hearing you. I'm realizing I've been doing it wrong. And how do we, maybe there's two parts here. How do we get through that maybe mindset shift
Mhm.
of being willing and understanding that this is truly a benefit? Because again, we get told all the time too that we need to eat healthy and it's better for us, and yet we don't.
Right.
We do live in a society, unfortunately, that still rewards selflessness, which is really, we call it selflessness, but it's really just disregard for ourselves and our health.
Right.
So that go,
Oh,
go,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
We're
Floating that. I love that.
yes. Yeah. So, and we're going, oh, this is great. You must be a hard worker. And instead you're driving yourself to the ground. And so we're needing to get through that mindset. And once we've got through that mindset, if we can then kind of explore, so then what do we do?
Yes. Okay. So to get to that mindset is really, I would invite everybody to think of, and I have such a picture in my mind from what you just said, like who those people are. Who do you want to be in this world? Right. And I think step one is to think of the humans who love you. Right. So, working 20 hours a day does not ever serve the people around you. If you have family, that means they don't see you, if your friend, so I think if we start with, what do I, there's no either or. There really isn't an either or. Driving yourself beyond human capacity in business versus taking care of yourself and working smarter and better, you're going to go further in business, right?
Yes.
So we get this wrong idea that grit and force is the way to win. And so I offer just the perspective shift of really what are fully your priorities as a human. Who do you want to be?
Yes.
Pretty sure for most of us, that means we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and then creating that person, like you said, who do I want to be? So if that's, if you do have kids, what does that mom look like? When is she showing up? Is she involved? I know for myself, it was easy to get caught up in that trap. And I worked in the medical field, and we're some of the worst of taking care of ourselves. I remember pulling, when I was in my 20s, I was pulling 16-hour days and doing these, and that was like you got to do it. And we were probably the most unhealthy of the people showing up.
The doctors are the worst. Medical school trains them, never to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, we're taking care of people at the expense of our own health. And so, but then, and I kept that work ethic, unfortunately, for way too long. And then it took first the death of my first husband for me to realize the brevity of life, for me to go, wow,
Right.
I kept thinking that if I keep doing this, there'll be some magical time where I'll enjoy life. And so I would caution those of you who are in that mindset of, well, if I do this all now, then it'll be better later. I can show up to their game later. I can be there, and they'll appreciate it because we'll have this nice house or whatever the thing that you're striving for. And I get it. I love goals and I go towards it too, but I'm telling you, that's not what anyone remembers. That's not what the kids will remember. That's not what your partner will remember. And honestly, it's not even really what your employees or the success of the business are going to remember.
Right.
Someone who shows up and is enjoying and loving life in the midst of what they're creating, that's what it's about. That's what it's all there. So
Yes.
So Julie, as you were saying, like creating that future self and getting caught in that, I just had to jump in because I know firsthand that you start to think, well, they'll see the value of hard work. I'm leading an example. But if I remember the final time that I couldn't handle saying, I can't right now, mommy has to work. And it just pierced the heart. I was like, I don't want to do that and say that anymore. And it was time to make a change. And so if that helps anybody, just hearing that, I hope as you're looking at this mindset when we have Julie here, that just, I'm telling you, it's a bunch of lies. And when we do get to enjoy life now, and we can be just as productive and just as focused and goal oriented, while
Absolutely.
still taking time for ourselves. And like you said, Julie, as a matter of fact, we will actually be more productive. We will actually create more, have more moments of genius because our bodies are resting.
Yeah, which means our brains are working better as well. And I do want to add too, I run my own business. I'm super passionate about what I do. And I still find, so I'm not in the grind and the grit and the push, but I still find sometimes I need to reel myself in because I do love what I do so much that I could do it all, I could do it all day. I could do it all night. I work internationally. So,
you get lost in it, time zones. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So sometimes even in the flow, we can overdo it. But it always takes conscious effort.
And I would say you having this clear idea, like you've suggested to us to do, of who you want to be, when you're too far off, that pulls you back.
Oh, it does. It does. You almost feel, that you've stepped out of bounds a little bit, or you're getting really close to the line and it's time to.
Because you're like, wait a minute, I'm not showing up as that person I said I want to be. Yeah. And gosh, how important now is it, guys, if you didn't see it before, that it is to create that idea, to take that moment to really stop and go, who do I want to be as the CEO, as a mom, wife, girlfriend, whoever, males out there too. We got the ladies here now, but for all of you, as dad, as just guy showing up in life, whoever you want to be, to have that idea, because if we don't have something to go towards, we won't know if we're off. We won't know if we're away from that.
Right. One of my favorite shortcuts for all the parents out there who it takes a little imagination, right? And kind of opening your mind to even create that who do I want to be vision. So a shortcut is, what would I want for my children? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's like, I would want my kids to be working 18, 20 hours a day.
Right.
So that's kind of I believe our responsibility as parents is to lead by example. Obviously we learn as we go. It doesn't mean we're always doing it right. But that's a big joke in my family, because certainly health and food and lifestyle has evolved in my family over the past several years. And, we joke about, remember when you used to feed me this, or, but for so many, it is that easy shortcut of, well, what do I want my kids' lives to look like?
Yeah. I know for me, I think sometimes, how do I want, when my son describes his mother, like when he's older, it's like, oh, my mom was always like, and fill in that blank, that one really hits me, because I'm still at an age where I can have that conversation about my mom and say, when I was a kid. And so it's for me, it was really easy to put myself in those shoes and go, ooh, what is that going to be described like when it's his turn to say that? And what do I want it to be? Because I still have a chance to mold that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. No, I love that. So as we're getting here, and we have talked about parents and all stressed people, busy people, before we get into maybe it transitions into it, but as we move into what to do, what else can we say also to the people who are like, well, Julie, the point is that I'm busy. I clearly don't have the time for this. How do we find the time?
We don't find the time. We make the time. Yeah. We will never, just like you were saying earlier, we will never find the time. Like that idea that we have, whatever it is, it never arrives. We never get there. So it is literally a creation of time. And so for everybody that looks different of, where can you commit? And I start small with people. People are really, time is precious. And to say to somebody, well, I'd love you to find 20 minutes twice a day. Well, ha, right? And really, you don't need to sit in a cave and meditate for 40 days to get the effect of some kind of stress management routine. So I say wherever you start, and we'll throw some ideas around there, 5 minutes. You can't tell me you can't make 5 minutes in your day.
No. If you have the Instagram app on your phone, then we know that you can find 5 minutes in your day, guys. I already know. I can tell you how much time you have just by looking at the apps on your phone.
Exactly. So one of the most valuable times of day is morning for people. One of the reasons I love creating routine for something really important like self-care in the morning is because, often if you don't get it done in the morning, you don't get it done. But I am definitely somebody I call that my sacred time. I'm up at 5 a.m. and nobody talked to me till 6:30. Like that's.
And rarely does anyone get a hold of you at 5 a.m. guys.
No,
I know a lot of you are like, oh, early mornings, but it is the most distraction free. Like nobody calls me. It's like, hey, I just wanted to chat. No, because they're asleep. It's a wonderful, beautiful time.
And honestly, if somebody's reaching me at that hour, because it has happened, that's on me. Right, because I do work internationally and I am always in contact with my clients between appointments. I turn my phone on airplane mode at night. And so I make that choice every morning at 5. Yes. Do I take it off airplane mode and get hit with the texts and the messages and the emails? Or do I protect my sacred time and get myself ready to be the best me for my day?
Create that foundation. We have a strict rule here that we do within our courses and workshops and also here at the home, which is called None for 90. And that is a no inbox, no social media for the first 90 minutes of your day. Yes.
Did you notice my time frame was 90 minutes?
Yes.
30?
Yeah.
There's something to it, I'm telling you.
There's something about it, and it's because you're putting yourself into a Russian roulette of information and letting something that you have no control over determine your mindset, your feeling, your experience, which becomes the foundation of your day. So if you jump into your inbox first thing, and we always call the inbox, it's full of other people's agenda for you. It's not your agenda, it's someone else's agenda for you. And so jumping into that or jumping into social media, not knowing what's going to be there, whether it's going to be a happy cat video or the latest unfortunate news, can set the tone for your whole day. So this is an opportunity in what Julie's talking about is this morning routine. And it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. guys. I know some people are really adverse to that. I used to be an avid, like, there's no way I get before 9. I am now a 4 a.m.er and I love it. I'm working towards a 3:30 because I'm insane and I love it. But it doesn't have to be that. It's more about finding that sacred time that you can be uninterrupted, or before the kids wake up, or even just before you choose to go into work mode, whatever that is, to create that foundation. So absolutely.
I do have clients that are night owls. And so, sometimes like midnight to 1:30 is their sacred time. Wow. So there is a point where it's individualized, but even for them, when they do get up in the morning, they don't have time to take the 90 minutes because they work with me, so they get enough sleep. But it is still important for us to, like you said, start our day off right, grounded in our own, who do we want to be? How do we want the day to be before we start to get, I call it, getting hit in the face. As you said, like other people's agendas, and well-meaning or not, it doesn't matter. Right. It still does pull us out. It can be really important.
Yeah. So to start our stress management routine and to really, because the goal of all this ultimately is to reduce this amount of inflammation coming in that we're living in, not just happening to us, like we're living in.
Yes.
And which then makes us susceptible to all of these other illnesses and chronic problems and chronic things. So I think that's why, as we started out with this, you're like, well, functional medicine, what's going on? Stress management, what's happening? It's so connected. That's why it's functional medicine, because it's all of it. And it's leaving us open to all these other problems. And as Julie said, and I don't know if you guys caught it because it was really quick, that even clients that come to her with their food and all these great things in order, rarely do they have a plan for stress or even notice sometimes. So coming into this foundation of starting yourself in some way of clarity, of calmness, of that reset button from the chaos, this is like your number one key to health. So really to truly get back to health. So step one is we find the time, even though we can't find it. We make the time. We choose the time,
yes.
right? We choose the time. And I think the permission that's been given here, guys, is if you got a bunch of it, sure, use it. If not, 5 minutes. 5 minutes is what we can start with. And
Yes.
then what are some things that we can fill that time with?
Sure. There are several, literally studied and tested, tried and true. There are breathing techniques that will help settle you down, lower your heart rate. So those are great and easy. I love them because you can also do them throughout your day. They're quick. Meditation, obviously, you've heard me say I have a meditation routine. I love it. But we could talk for another half hour on why people are resistant about that, but it is another wonderful thing.
We actually have, guys, if you have it, we have a thing, a series called Habit of the Month, and we do a quick thing about meditation and all the myths, and then give you some quick tips to figure that out. So we'll send that to you too, Julie, if you want to check it out. Could be helpful for some people. But guys, like she said, you don't need to be in a cave for 2 months, and you don't need to clear your mind. You don't need to do any of those things. There is an accessible way for everyone.
Yes. So, I say the only way to meditate wrong is not to meditate.
To do it. Right.
Everybody, I meet so many people who are like, I tried it and I was terrible. So I
can't clear my mind. You don't have to.
Exactly.
There's a style for everyone, guys. There's even one that has you focus on the noise. There's one that's like listen to the construction noise. Like there's all different kinds. There's something for everyone.
So that's a great one. But my favorite technique, so ideally everybody has more than one tool in their toolbox, right? Eventually. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we're starting with 5 minutes a day, and the priority is the daily, right? It's the routine of it. Yeah. And then what do you know? I bet after 5 minutes a day for a few weeks, you could probably create 10. And you'll want to.
You might, I was going to say, you might actually like it so much. Yeah. You're like, oh, let's add on to this. I could also do this.
Exactly. But one question I love, and I'm inviting the audience, ask yourself this right now. What do you love? What fills your cup, right? What brings you joy? What brings you peace? What makes you feel relaxed? Any and all of those. There are often things that we do or used to do that we don't have time for that are so restorative for our souls. I have a lot of clients that were like, oh, I used to love art. I haven't picked up a paintbrush or picked up a, charcoal and however, decades, often it's decades. And so for some people, it's 5 or 10 minutes a day of drawing or painting or knitting.
So I think it's easy for us to go and run out to the articles, and we talk about this a lot in our groups as well, is that it's easy for us to go and there's, stuff about morning routines isn't new. I'm sure this isn't the first time you guys are hearing about this. Julie, it's amazing, but unfortunately we're not the first ones talking about it.
No, we didn't make that up.
But what happens, we didn't create it. We'll work on it, but we didn't create it. So, but people will run out and they'll go check the articles or see what's out there, and then you'll see, what Steve Jobs used to do in the morning, or what, all the top CEOs do in the morning. Yes. And then you go, okay, well, Tony Robbins jumps on a trampoline, so let me see if I can add that. And the truth is there is no magic item that does it. Now, meditation is something that consistently shows clinical benefits. So that's like saying, well, we're not sure vitamin C is good for you. We do know that. Okay.
Yes.
But if jumping on the trampoline works for him, it doesn't mean it's going to be a magic button for you. So finding that thing that you love, that you never have time for, that you're going to wait one day until everything's perfect and then you'll finally do it again. What a beautiful way to start. And I just spoke with one of my son's teachers, actually. He goes to a forest school here. And I asked her when she got up, and she said, oh, about half an hour before I have to jump into, work. And I said, and I kind of looked at her, I said, so just enough time to jump into someone else's agenda for you. And she kind of looks at me, and I said, well, what would you do if you had time? And she's like, well, I suppose I would, she plays the fiddle. She's like, I would probably play fiddle. And I was like, wouldn't that be a lovely way to start your morning?
Yes.
And it was, And it's something she knows she loves, but she just never thought, like, I could start my morning. I could do that.
Right.
And so that's permission right now to do that thing. And I think, again, another thing we get caught up with, just like the meditation, like we need the 2 months in the cave, is that we think, like, if I do it, I'm going to, what is 5 minutes of doing my art going to do? But I would challenge you guys to think of it like this. If you spend 2 hours learning a language and then don't do it at all the rest of the week, or the rest of the month, or the rest of the year, how much are you going to hold on to that? As opposed to 5 minutes every day, learning one word, doing another word, and building on that consistency where every day you're speaking a little more Spanish. Or are you going to do better because you did the, 2 hours, I spent a whole day on self-care. 1 whole day on self-care.
Right. Which some of us do, right?
It can be nice. Yeah. Well, that should serve me. It doesn't carry over like that, guys. I wish it did, but you can't batch your self-care.
Yeah. Well, so, and we're not batched. Our stress isn't batched.
Yes.
It's constant.
Yeah.
So we need that
consistently, that 5 minutes. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I love that you brought up the art, and that it's doesn't have to be all this other stuff you're reading about. It can be what's for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And ideally I would love for everybody to have eventually, a blend, right?
Yeah.
Like do the scientifically proven, create that meditation routine. But then add in the things that bring you joy and make your heart happy. There's a healing quality, an immeasurable healing quality to happiness and joy. Oh, yeah. And so many of us let go of things that bring us joy, or, don't prioritize the time. And so that's my, you might not find that one in a book. Till I write my book, but
good. There you go. We'll find it in a book soon, guys.
there is no one size fits all, and for me, that's it can take a while to chip away at those meditation myths or the resistances people have to the scientifically proven methods. But when we tap into our own joy, then it becomes easy to create the routine.
Yeah. What encouragement than your own joy and happiness.
Right?
I love that. Well, this has been amazing. Before my last question, can you please tell everyone where they can find you and what you have going on and what you have for them today?
Absolutely. So the best place to find me first would be my website, which is juliemichelson.com, and there is no A in Michelson. I say it's spelled wrong.
We'll have it down here, yeah.
Yeah. And through my website, you can reach out. You can book a call with me, a half-hour call, to see how I can support you. I have different coaching programs and packages. If somebody out there is listening and you are struggling with autoimmunity or chronic illness, I have a Inspired Living with Autoimmunity program that covers everything we talked about today and more. As I said, to hit all of those areas. And you can find me on Instagram, julie.michelson, and Facebook, Julie Michelson Coaching. So all the places, LinkedIn as well. And just reach out. I'd love to hear from you guys and see how I can best support you.
Awesome. And then they can contact you, and I think you have like a free breakthrough call that you said that they can.
I do. Yes. They can book that right on the website directly. So they can find a time that works for them. And it's a complimentary call. And we just chat, get to know each other, and see how I can support them.
Amazing. I love it. Well, so now for our last question, what is one action step? So we've given them a lot. There's a whole routine here that ideally they can get to. There's some food choices they can be making and some changes and things they can be thinking about. What is one thing to get this ball rolling that they could do as soon as today or this week to start going in the right direction, to start decreasing this inflammation?
Yes. Create the 5 minutes. Right? Sit down right now and decide when in your day is your best chance to consistently create the 5 minutes. The beauty is, if you pick wrong, you can change it, right? Yeah. If it doesn't work, don't throw it out, find a different time. But I offer to you, I implore you to create the 5 minutes. You fill it with however you want to fill it, right? I'm not going to tell you how to fill that 5 minutes, but 5 minutes.
They can experiment with that.
Yeah, play with it.
Let's set it. Yeah, we always say here that there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There is no someday. So if you want to make it happen, you have to put it on a real time, on a real calendar. So that 5 minutes, don't wait till you find it. Don't wait and go, oh, today I'm going to do my 5 minutes some point, someday,
Right.
sometime. Give it a real time. So whatever that time is, like Julie said, if you're not a morning person and it's new, it doesn't matter. But make it real by giving it a real, treat it like an appointment.
Schedule it. Absolutely.
Right?
And yes, put it on your calendar. Right.
Yeah. Make it real, guys. That is your first step to huge, significant change.
Yes, remarkably so. It sounds insane, 5 minutes, but yeah.
5 minutes, it's their change. And then after that, you go and you call Julie and you get all the other steps and you have to let her help guide you and bring you there so you can be joyful as well. So, well, thank you so much, Julie, for being here today and sharing with us. Do you have any last thing you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I just want everybody out there to know whether you're, like I mentioned before, have the I'm just getting older syndrome, or you are somebody who's been struggling with chronic illness. I promise you, you can get better. And so the ball's in your court. It's time to take that control back and create the life you love.
Yes. Oh, let that resonate, guys. Let that resonate. And then I'm just going to keep telling you to call Julie. So, all right.
Tanya, well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And you guys, like I said, make sure you go and connect with her at Julie Michelson on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and set up that complimentary breakthrough session. Take charge of your own health because you do deserve to enjoy life vibrantly. So again, we thank her so much for being here. And that's our show for today. So as always, you can connect with us at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram, and learn more about our courses, workshops, and coaching at tanyamfk.com. And if you like this episode, then make sure to click that subscribe and follow button and be notified when our next one is up by clicking now. And remember, your someday starts today. Make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the Tanyamfk channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignlife.show.